everybody to the Badass series. Edna Valentino here. You know, this is my pride and joy. I love my badasses. And this program started actually a year ago in 2020, when I really started seeing the women in my life who were playing at a higher level. And I have always aspired to be at that higher level. These women are filled with courage. They're bold, they're brave, and they're not afraid to show it to the world. So they get to take their gifts and offer them to you. And maybe through these conversations, we get to inspire you to play bigger in your life too. So today I am super, super excited about my friend, Pam Pryor. And Pam, I'm going to say friend first. And there are all kinds of titles and initials after your name because you are a badass. But to me, I know we met as a coach and client, years ago, but you are my friend and you have done some really big badass things. So it is my pleasure to have you on today. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I am so excited. I love these badass interviews. I am learning so much from it, and just getting to see how many people are out there doing such amazing stuff I'm thrilled to be here. I really am honored to be in this class of women that you see out there.
Just to let everybody know, Pam is the author of Your First CFO. I'm just going to read a little bit of her bio. The Accounting Cure for Small Business Owners, a parable that makes finance fun and accessible. And I will tell you, those are accurate words. Pam is fun and accessible and the entertaining and informative host of the Cash Flow podcast on iTunes. So make sure you check her out there. As a fellow entrepreneur, Pam Pryor's mission is to bring finance to entrepreneurs right where they are, clearing the way for them to be the very few who make it to 7 and 8 figures. Who doesn't want a sidekick that's going to help them get to 7 and 8 figures if you're a small business owner right now, right? A client of Pam's recently said, listen to this, I don't know that I've ever been in 30 years as confident in my numbers as I am right now working with Pam. And I know a lot of entrepreneurs are watching the Badass series because we're all stepping up and leveling up. This is who you want by your side. She is committed to transforming entrepreneurial finance and accounting from nightmare. Is it a nightmare for you? I know it scares the bejesus out of me. To best friend for her clients and audiences of all sizes. Get this. And she's been described as everything from CFO quarterback to financial fairy godmother to friend in the foxhole. Pam, and you are all sorts of names. I know. Tell everybody how we actually met, because I think this is a great story.
Oh, this is a great story. So I had been way overweight for a long time and I decided to go back to the gym and start working out a little bit. This was around 2010 and 2009, 2010. Okay. Mm-hmm. And I had been waiting for my trainer one day, and on a table was a magazine, and it was like the Philly Fitness magazine or something. And I was bored, so I flipped through it. And I had started thinking a little bit before that about coaching and what it all meant. And I thought, oh God, it would be so hard to find the perfect person for you, and pretty much wrote it off. And then I read this article about you and your whole perspective on coaching. And it was really the first time I went, oh my God, I have to call this person because this is the kind of coaching that I want. And it was to get me out of my own way, essentially. And that's what you were describing. And I knew you were a fitness expert as well, and nutrition. And I thought, okay, I'm going to call her. So I called you, and I think within a week I had hired you as my coach.
I'll take the next part of this story because this is the inspiration I got back. So Pam and I worked together for 6-9 months. Like it was a while. Yeah, like really. A while.
You worked with my company too.
Yes, that's right. That's right. We had a good time with that.
Yeah, we did.
And one of the things that I remember asking you in one of our coaching sessions was, what is it that you really want to do? Like with your body, right? Like, and you said, I just want to play basketball again. And the passion that I heard in you over the phone, and this is the thing, about coaching, is those one-liners, those moments where a client says that thing that they really want, and it's not going in that direction, was almost like you created your own vision. And I was so excited to jump on your train. I'm like, we are going to get this woman on the court. And here's who Pam is, everybody. Pam decided this was going to be her goal, and she was going to be able to play a basketball game. But Pam didn't just go to the gym and go play a basketball game. Pam made it this big event where she was going to bring all her friends and some family and invite them to play the game and to be able to do it. Pam and I lived about an hour away.
Mhm.
And I remember I was struggling to get there for the game, and I missed the whole game, but I didn't miss the after party.
Yep, we had a party afterwards at the gym.
Yes, and Pam did it. She played that basketball game. And in life, I think a lot of times when I hear these stories of courage, to me that is a story of courage, because Pam, it would have been just as easy in your life at that point to never play basketball, and you would have been okay. You still could have lost weight and felt good in your body, but that changed you. I saw you different.
Oh.
It was like going back, right? Like, tell me about that moment of being able to play that game.
I will kind of never forget it, because I had been, one of the things you helped me with was visioning what could happen. So I was an athlete as a kid, so I could literally feel the muscle movements even as we were working together, long before I could ever physically play the game. So every time I was on a treadmill, every time I was working with weights, every time I was doing the hard stuff, I pictured playing basketball. So that was one thing. And that was the first time I'd ever used visualization in any real way. And the other thing that you did that I loved was you never let me get far away from that goal. And I'll tell you folks, when we started this, I was 60 pounds away from it, probably.
Okay.
I think that was probably the delta there, and it was over a 10-month period that we did this. So yeah, it felt amazing. And there was a picture that was taken at that event of me taking a shot that I could put next to a picture of me doing the same thing in high school, and was able to go, wow, we did it. And that feeling was amazing. That's one of my go-to things whenever I need to remember what it feels like to set a goal and really achieve it.
That's so fantastic. That's so great. I always have to share that story because I was early in my career as a life coach, and that was so powerful to me to understand that the seeds of what we really want are sometimes buried just right under there. And if you say, what is it that you really want? And I often ask my clients that, and they can get passionate and talk around it and what I really want. And all of a sudden it's blurted out.
Comes out.
And then we water that seed, right?
And
Now it's
how
been
you asked the questions that got it out too. I remember that, really clear. I had no idea that was going to be my answer when we started that conversation.
right.
Really just love to play basketball again. It just came out but it wasn't a specific, I don't know how you did it, but you did it. It was magic.
Yeah, it was magic. So let's go back a little bit, because I always remember in our coaching sessions you talking about your childhood and the moving that you did because of military, correct? You were military.
Not military, corporate. Dad was with DuPont.
Corporate.
He was with a private corporation. Yep.
Okay. And I remember hearing stories like in my memory, and I didn't talk to you about this in advance on purpose, Germany and maybe South America, like you were the new student. And I remember we bonded over being new in the class, like every time we started new schools. Tell us a little bit about what life was like in that period of time where you were moving a lot.
Yeah. So as a kid, I loved it. As an adult, I've come to be really, really appreciative of it, because I'm what they call a third culture kid, because we were raised my entire childhood from 4 to 12. I was raised overseas. Now, so we had little pods of some English speaking folks and American folks in Germany in particular, where just, the example I had from my parents, they founded a school while we were in Germany for students who didn't want to go to military school or British school, that became the International School of Dusseldorf and just had its 50th anniversary. So,
Wow.
that's kind of what I grew up watching, to speak about what your kids watching you. So the thing with it was we didn't move as much or as frequently as you did. But the funniest one was, in Germany, I was a little tomboy. So I played soccer. It was soccer. And we got really, really good. I played on the boys team. I mean, there was just no distinction. We just played ball. But when we moved back to the States, we moved to Garden City, Long Island, which was a very just a classic American bubble community, I'll call it. And I remember first day in gym out on the field, it was like, we're going to play soccer. I'm like, oh, how cool. And we got in our little one piece. I don't know if you ever had these, but these one piece jumpers that we used to have to wear for gym. Oh my God, worst thing ever. It was red, snapped up, and we just looked ridiculous. But anyway, and went out to the field. I'm like, oh, cool, we're going to play soccer. And they split us up into teams, and I'm tearing up and down the field playing soccer. Everybody else, all the other girls were just like, who is this alien? Who is this alien? And I remember I like plowed through one person. She ended up becoming my best friend there. And I was playing soccer. I'm like, why aren't these people actually playing soccer? They're like, during gym, we come out here and file our nails and just hang, what are you doing? Kind of thing.
You're a
But what I
badass,
found
Pam. You
was
were badass then.
as a badass, but what I noticed was because of that, and because we moved so much, I could adapt quickly to things. And I didn't change my personality, but I could identify how to connect with people because you had to. And that's just been such a gift, because when I was in corporate, I worked in logistics for a while. So I would be at a truck depot having somebody show me under the hood of a truck to figure out what engine we should buy for them. And then in the afternoon, I'd be in the boardroom, and just as comfortable in both situations. And that's the gift I think I got from that. And it's not like I'm a chameleon by any stretch, but the gift and the special thought sauce, and I think you talked about this, we talk about this a lot, is I have this gift of connecting with people, making them feel safe and understood, and identifying out of that what the way is for them through the financial jump.
How did you get into this?
I'll try and make a very long story short, but I started in this when I was about 7 years old, in a little tiny desk behind my dad's big desk in his office at home, where he would give me work to do. In other words, what that meant was he'd hand me stuff to staple or to file or whatever, and he'd give me lists of numbers to add up. I loved it. It was bonding time with him. So I connected accounting and numbers and finance with that cool relationship. So fast forward a long time, we were blessed to live overseas. He was in a corporate job with DuPont at the time. So we traveled a lot, but he died very young. And I was probably 12. But because businesses were what they were in those days, when I became 17, nepotism was a thing. And they hired me into the mailroom there at DuPont. I had done great in high school, but I flunked out my first year in college just because I played. I just didn't, it was a very typical thing. I aced high school. I was second in my class. And then college, it was just like, whoa, freedom, and went nuts. So my mom said, that's it. I'm not paying for any more school. You got to go to work. Went to work in the mailroom. And then eventually over that time period, DuPont paid for all of my degrees. So I was there for 20 years, growing up as an accountant. In the last 10 years, we had the most amazing leaders, Edna. And this is where I will always go back to this as a point at which I'm grateful. They taught us that how we do what we do was just as important as what we do. So I turned from the really smart, cocky, I know everything kid into a really good leader as a result of the influence that these people had on me over 10 years. So that was a blessing. Ended up selling one of the subsidiaries, and I launched out into the world doing CFO work for mid-market companies in the 300 to 500 million level. And in between a couple of those jobs, I got to work with some entrepreneurs or small businesses, just kind of, making ends meet, basically. But I loved it. But I still thought of it, Edna, as like in between the real jobs, right? So I went to my last real corporate job, which on paper was the perfect next move for a CFO. It was bigger. It was more influence. There was a lot more to fix. I was on the, in the inside table, the whole thing. Walked in that door, and a month later went, I don't want to do this anymore. I had gotten the fire from working with entrepreneurs. And what I realized in that last little gap was that entrepreneurs didn't have the benefit of all of this massive amount of value that you can get from your numbers. And they didn't, because it was being fed to them in these traditional, boring, frustrating, rigid ways. And so I made it my goal to take everything I'd learned and kind of condense it down to make it applicable to entrepreneurs, but not just that, make it agile enough for entrepreneurs. And then right as I got into this field, I started learning and getting involved with all of the concepts around energy and how to capture it and use it and positive mindset. And I was working with you at my second to last corporate job. And so all this was starting to gel. And I realized entrepreneurs needed somebody to come up alongside them, basically get in line with their momentum and add this information rather than make it a brick wall they had to crash into, which is what most of people felt like when they had to talk to a bookkeeper or talk to the tax accountant. It's like, all right, I love my work. I love my work. I love my work. Oh, darn it. Accounting and bookkeeping. Boom. And they just hated it. So I made it my mission to turn that around and make it the best friend in building your business, because it can help so much done correctly.
That is a fantastic story on even being 7 years old. I want to go back to that for a second, because, I look at my kids who are 10 and just about 8, and my son wants to make money,
Good
and
for him.
he's always looking for, how do I make money? Because he wants to buy things, and he sees the freedom in having money. I say be rich and be able to go have the freedom to go have what he wants when he wants it, instead of going through mom and dad. And here he is at 10 years old, and I don't necessarily know what to say, right? Like, I don't know. I've been out there looking for different programs, for kids. Like, there's nothing out there, Pam. So this is where I feel like, and then, if it's not there for adults, is it there for kids, right? Like, we're not teaching them about money.
No.
And this is a conversation that's come up a lot just with my friends and other moms as we're talking about raising our kids, that there's got to be something there. I'm going to plant that seed for you because you're so relatable.
We did already, and I've reserved the domain for what I'm going to create there.
Oh no! You guys, she's a badass. She already has
one of our you said that to me. It's been about a year and a half now, and I thought, oh, this is something. I need to just grab a domain or two and go. And I even have a logo developed. But carry on your point, it's not just kids, because we had during COVID, we had blessedly 4 of Lindsay's friends. They were fresh college graduates who lived here last summer during COVID. None of them had any information on what is it to be an employee versus a contractor? How much do I need to put aside for taxes? How do I create a budget? How much rent can I afford? Should I be saving money? There was nothing there for them. So we basically ran a masterclass here for 4 kids so that I kind of got those questions from them as well.
Here's the thing, Pam. I went to college for communications. I actually didn't have to take any business courses, any finance, anything like that. That is so silly in this day and age, with everybody being able to have a side hustle and at-home business. Like, everybody's getting tired of, maybe their careers or corporate, or they went down a certain path. And I feel like then we get lost, right? We have something we want to give the world, but how do we make money doing it? And am I doing the right thing? And I feel like you're the person that doesn't make me feel dumb. You don't make me feel like small. You don't make me feel less than. You're like, let's level up, let's do it together.
Really quickly, just to comment on that. You are right. You didn't probably have to take any accounting or bookkeeping in college, but I'll go a step further than that. I'll bet that even in high school, middle school, and high school, you didn't really even get any money training at all, right? There's nothing to be embarrassed about, because nobody ever taught us this stuff in our formal education system. Some people may have learned it from their parents, may not have learned it from their parents. And so it's got all of that along with it, along with all the mindset stuff that comes with money, because money just has so much connected to it.
What do you think the biggest fears for small business owners, entrepreneurs are?
So there are a few of them. I think that they're obstacles, I'll call them, to people dealing with their finances. And I kind of say there are four of them. There's shame. And the interesting thing about shame is what I said about the fact that nobody ever learns this stuff in school. So how people can be expected or hold themselves accountable to knowing something they were never taught is what I try to kind of bring to the forefront to remove shame. But I'll also say to people, like, often I'll be in a group of, if speaking, say, to a room of 100 people, and I'll say, look, all of you right now, take a minute and think about, I said, this will be the worst part of the speech, but think about your most embarrassing money moment. Get it in your head. And then I'll have them look around the room and say, okay, I want you to look at everybody else and know that everybody came up with one. Whether you're looking at the waiter who came in and cleared the plates while I asked that question, or you're looking at the person you think is the most successful billionaire in the room, they all answered that question and they all think theirs is the worst. So you only have a 1 in 100 chance of yours actually being the worst, right? In this room. So that's kind of the big one, is shame. People just, they don't want to talk to anybody about it because they think they're embarrassed. So that's one thing we try to knock away. The second is overwhelm, right? Where do I start? It's like me with marketing, right? I
Yes.
know nothing about marketing. So there's this mountain there that looks like Mount Everest, and I'm down here on the ground and I can't even see what the first step is. So
Right.
that's another big one. Fear is the other one. Fear of what we don't know. So fear is that thing you feel when you don't know what's on the other side of the wall. It's the fear of that tiger. So what we do is talk about how a forecast process and really starting to learn some of this stuff lets you face that tiger, who 9 times out of 10 turns out to be just a cat. But even if it's a tiger, we make a plan to go after it, because then you switch from fear and paralysis into action, right?
Yeah.
And once you've switched into action, it's like, oh, I'm executing a plan. There's nothing to fear. And then the other thing is time. Like, so time is, and I remember those with SOFT, Edna. So shame, overwhelm, fear, and time. We think we don't have time to look at stuff because we've gotten these reports that make no sense to us from our bookkeeper, or we've looked at our stuff somewhere on our bank statement or whatever, and we go, I don't have time to sort this out right now. We're all busy. We're all entrepreneurs. So I work with people a lot. And in the Facebook group, I'll give tips on how to really make your time worth it, so that now all of a sudden you're looking at something that, oh, wow, if I spend 5 minutes here, I can save myself hours down the road because I know when I can hire my first person, or whatever it might be that you're going to learn from just taking the time to get into those numbers. Once we make them meaningful, they have to tell a story. If it's just a sheet of numbers, it's not going to do anything for you. But when you all of a sudden look at those numbers in a way that tells a story, they're your best friend in the business.
Expand on how they tell a story.
Yeah. So there's a lot of times what we'll get is just one sheet of paper and it'll say, here are your financials for the month. And you're like, okay, fine. But we put them in context. So what we always do is say, always get at least 12 months of running information on a page. And every bookkeeping system can do this, so that what you're actually watching is a trend. What you're actually watching is seeing, oh, my revenues go up here. My costs went down here. Oh, I spent money in advertising there. My revenue went up 3 days later or 3 months later. Or, oh my gosh, all my clients are on vacation in July and August. I have no revenue. Wow, what do? Oh, they go to Disney World. So let me do some advertising around Disney World. Or, I mean, all of a sudden these numbers come to life and say, here's what's happening in your business over time. Then the other thing we do is we compare them against expectations. That's the other context we use to make your time you spend on these worthwhile. And so that every month you can say, hey, here's what I think is going to happen. And here are the things I move to make it happen. Here's my price. Here's the advertising I'm going to spend. Here's the people I'm going to have on board. And this is what I think will happen when I look at my numbers at the end of the month. And then you see what really happens. And then you can go, oh, I sold more than I thought at that price point. Maybe it's time to raise my price. I only hired one person, but I didn't have any time for myself. So maybe it's time to hire another person. It starts to tell the story of how you run your business when you put it in those two contexts. I get so excited about this. I'm so glad. I'm so glad I didn't ramble on too long, but that to me is what brings it to life for people.
I love that analogy because it really makes you have pride in your business again. And I'm always about control what you can control. If you have
Yes.
numbers, you can control them in business. But if the numbers don't mean anything to you, it's hard to control what.
It
So
has
when
to
you
be
make it,
connected. Yeah, it has to be connected to what I call your business levers, but you could call them anything you want. But it's the things you can actually control and manage in your business. You should know, or you can know, not should, you can know how each number is affected by every one of those things you can control. And that's kind of what I picture as somebody at the, actually, I actually picture Lily Tomlin at the phone thing.
oh
That
yeah,
oh, I can plug this one in here and that'll happen. But anyway,
right, right,
I just
right,
showed my
right.
age.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. If somebody wants to work with you, do you work mostly one-on-one or do you do group coaching? I know you have a retreat coming up. Tell us how we can work with you.
So we've been expanding the way we work with people because I've gotten just a lot of demand that I knew we could fix, because as you can imagine from the way I've had these conversations, there are a lot of principles that go along with Profit Concierge and how we do the business. So I have been blessed with an amazing team on the operations side of this business, and I've been able to convey that philosophy to this team. So now we have, forgive the lawnmower in the background. Friday is lawnmower day. I should have remembered that. We are building out now a package that we're going to launch in the next month and a half that allows people to have their bookkeeping done for them by us under the Profit Concierge methodology, and puts them in a group membership. And in that group membership, we are going to do very similar to what we're doing in the Facebook group, only a little more advanced, weekly lives, weekly Q&A, weekly hot seats, so that they can still get the education around this stuff and even their own individual questions. There'll be a repository for asking questions. We'll answer the questions every week. They'll have access to their bookkeeper for some stuff, so that we're taking what used to be me one-on-one with an entrepreneur and making it accessible and much more fun, because we're going to add a real community aspect to this. So that's going to be launching here. I believe we're going to probably be a September launch on that. But then we have also our one-on-one packages, which, depending on which package you buy, you're one-on-one with one of our team, or you're one-on-one with me. And it's a virtual CFO and finance coach. And we can do your bookkeeping, or you can have your bookkeeping done elsewhere, but we teach all this stuff, how to make this your story. In that way. And then we are running a year-end event that's going to be all about manifestation and execution. So I'm bringing my wonderful friend Jennifer Love, who is the most amazing money therapist I've ever met, and a financial genius. I've learned a lot of what I know about finance from her. And in this retreat in October, it's 2 days, but we're also going to have some lead up work with you individually before that event. The event's in an amazing home, 12-bedroom home in Fort Lauderdale, where we have a lot of sessions and a lot of learning, but we also have a lot of fun and growth. So that's one of the things we're going to start running those probably twice a year.
Good. Okay. So if anybody watches this afterwards, there'll be more coming, which
Absolutely.
is good.
In the Facebook group, you'll learn all of it.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I've seen pictures. It is quite enticing, those pictures
Awesome.
that you have of that retreat. That's fantastic. What does the future look like for Pam?
Yeah, so it's funny you should ask this now, because the company is in a massive transformation. So, as you mentioned, it was a lot of one-on-one work with me, but there's only a certain number of clients you can work with doing that. So over the past year, I've expanded the business. So we now have 5 employees, 4 contractors. I am at that point now where I'm learning that there are things I need to do that are different than things I needed to do yesterday. So I'm going through that transition from, solo entrepreneur to CEO myself in this process. And I see so much opportunity. So once all this is rolling smoothly, we're launching these couple of products I talked about. First goal was, we're going to launch some stuff that's going to get us a group that's going to bring a lot more people into our world, so that we can start to get the message out. I don't know if you've heard of the Profit First books by Michael Michalowicz, but that was a real movement in entrepreneurial finance. And I've actually had him on my podcast, a very, very cool guy and a great process. I want Profit Concierge to be the thing an entrepreneur knows the minute they want to start a business. That's my vision now. That's I want to play basketball vision. If I decide I want to start a business, I know, I need to go connect to Profit Concierge, because that's the way I do it. So that's the basketball vision. Along the way, there are things like, let's add some, how do we get kids educated? How do we get high school kids educated? How do we get college adults educated? How do we get people who are working in the workforce educated, so they know their options? So many people feel trapped in corporate today who don't need to be there. They just don't know there are options. They don't understand, because they've never been shown how different and awesome it can be, and that it's not about money, but money is the engine. It's about the freedom.
Yes,
right?
Absolutely. It's about the freedom. And, that was my journey too, when I worked at QVC and I wanted to kind of get off that train, and God loved QVC and my experience there was amazing. I had my dream job.
Yes, me too.
Right. And then I started working out my way up the corporate ladder, got into fitness as kind of a side thing. And I was like, I think I want to go over here, and here I am going to school for 4 years, finding my dream job. Excuse me.
Oh, that's all right.
And all of a sudden, it's like about face, and I had heard a statistic around that time that said a lot of times people's careers last about 7 or 8 years before you want to change, and that it's getting shorter now. And
Oh,
people are like quickly changing and being able to. And here's the thing, I know people in my life who desire to do something different, exactly what you said, Pam, who don't know what to do from where they are today
mhm.
to even the next step, because they think the overwhelm in your acronyms there, overwhelm, fear, time is going to take over, and they're not going to know what to do.
And I will point out the seeds of this, as you're talking about moving from corporate to entrepreneur, all was with our very first conversations. Because you were the one who got me thinking about, what do you really want? What do you really want? And you had me go back through my stories. I'll never forget this. You had me go back through and write all of my little stories down. And I did that. I have them now all on business cards. I have them captured on this stack of business cards, and look into them to see what the common thread is. Let's talk through them. That work with you now 12 years ago is such a big part of why I'm where I am now. It all comes full circle. It's just,
Right. If you've gotten to this level with everybody that you're thinking about, you put so much thought into who you're serving. And I know service is a big part for you,
yeah,
that you hear that in your, it's just like, what
means
can I
the
do
world to
for you?
me. That really,
Yeah.
that just hearing that gives me another whole year's worth of energy. Because if, like we say, if there's the one person you've made that difference to, wow, that's the fuel for the next, to get to the next one.
I just want to thank you so much for this. I could talk to you for a whole nother 5 hours for sure.
Yep.
Truly, I know that you have a busy schedule, and I'm so happy that we were able to do this today. So thank you so much
I am
for
honored,
being the badass on this episode, Miss Pam Pryor.
honored to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Connect with Pam at profitconcierge.com or email her at pam@prioritiesllc.com. Stay tuned for the next episode in the Badass series.